Assalamu alaikum and hello, my name is Hashima. Welcome to my channel, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be talking about the things that 2025 taught me. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. On this channel, I share conscious lifestyle inspiration for mind, body, and soul to transform and master the art of you. Because I will be doing very minimal or no edits on this video, I have my list typed up here. I brainstormed for this video, and so I'm going to be reading it off, and yeah, so bear with me. Okay, so the first thing is that I learned that if a person does not trust themselves, they cannot trust you. And this goes for if a person is harming themselves, if a person is not taking care of themselves, they will not be able to take care of you. If they harm themselves, they will probably harm you. Basically, pay attention to the way that people treat themselves, and that will definitely give you a clue about how they'll treat you. The next thing is that I learned to trust my reflection, and by my reflection, I mean my actual physical reflection. So for some reason in 2025, I had this thing where I just started noticing, like, if I would take a picture, right after I took the picture, I would be able to immediately see in my face in the picture what I was going through. Like it would really be showing through. And I can say that the same thing happens to me now. When I look in the mirror, I can see, like, I feel drained, or I'll look tired, or even like just that loss of glow when you're not happy, like when you're not truly content or happy. I noticed it this past year, and I'm like, I wonder what that is. I don't know if it's coming with age, maturity. I don't know what it is, but basically I'm learning to trust my own reflection as an indicator to things that I need to pay attention to, or, just work on. The next thing is I've learned to trust my gut. In the past, I feel like my confidence in my gut feeling was kind of eroded. I started to doubt myself. I started to and by gut feeling, I mean in the positive and the negative. I don't mean just when something bad is happening, or someone is doing something bad, or someone is harmful to me or something like that. I mean also in the positive, where it's like, okay, I feel like this is a really good idea, but I'll second guess myself and not actually execute on the idea because of self-doubt or, whatever. So yeah, I learned to trust my gut more in 2025. The next thing I learned is that laughter is my favorite form of therapy. And the reason why this is important to me is because a lot of times people who don't find humor in real life situations, like the irony of life and things like that, a lot of times they'll become offended or put off by the fact that you can laugh in serious moments. And it's something that I would become self-conscious about in different settings or just with different people. And so I think that, 2025 taught me that that's actually one of my favorite forms of therapy. I'll say my favorite form of therapy is laughter. The next thing is I learned the difference between loving feedback and harsh criticism. In the beginning of this year, I read a book about feedback, and it was very, very transformative for me. It took me a while, and I'm not even saying that I've gotten it down yet, but in reference to how I receive other people, I can tell the difference now. Like it's allowed me to be more open to feedback, but also, and it's not that I wasn't open to feedback, but when I felt like a person didn't mean me well, then I would be more closed off to their feedback. But I've actually learned how to sift through what they're saying about me, the truth of it that I may not have confronted yet, and also just their intentions behind it versus just whatever it is. But also that there is a difference between constructive criticism and loving feedback as well. So I would say that there's like 3 levels. So there's loving feedback, then there's constructive criticism, then there's harsh criticism. Not to say that there aren't any other categories, but like off the top of my head, those are the 3 that I can think of. And I've just learned the difference in the way that I used to give feedback versus the way I do now. And I think that there's a difference. I've actually asked people whether or not they've noticed a difference in the way that I, speak to them about negative things. And, so I do have some indication about how others are receiving me as well. But that's one of the things that I learned this year. The next thing is that I learned that art has to be a part of my life. So my son had a gallery showing recently, and I went to it. And while I was there, I just felt so good. I was bouncing off the walls with joy and just happiness. And I realized how much I miss being around art, and I miss doing art. And although I know I've always loved art, I've always loved creating, but I realized that it has to be a part of my regular life. It just has to be, because when I don't engage in art in some way, whether it's me doing it, visiting places where people have their art, or being around other artists, I start to feel like an internal sadness. And so I realized that art has to actually be a part of my life. The next thing is I learned the benefit of stillness and silence. And there have been times throughout my life where I was silent. There were times where I was still, but putting them together, I did that this year. And it was monumental for it's very healing. It was very healing for me, because my default for quite a while has been just going. You know, I'll say, if I'm being completely transparent, my life and all of the different things that I was going through, I vented a lot, you know, to just relieve myself of the stress of the situation that I was in. And, you know, it just, getting to a point where you can actually be still and also be silent is major, especially depending on what type of person you were by default. So just, you know, being still and silent, looking at trees, watching the birds, watching water move, watching the trees sway. Like, it is so therapeutic for me at this point that it's something that now I crave when I have these different situations that happen that are stressful and stuff. It's like I can't wait to get to a place of stillness and silence. And by silence, I don't mean just me talking or being talked to. I also mean still silence in a sense of not always having something playing in the background. I used to always listen to, it was either songs, it would be lectures, it would be podcasts, it would be shows that I like, or YouTubers that I like. It was always something going on. And I literally, in 2025, was able to just be okay with nothing happening, nothing at all. I've learned that while I love the differences in people, I love being around people who are different than me, who have different perspectives, opinions. I love having conversations with people who think differently and picking their brains and having them pick mine and all that kind of stuff. But I also love being around people like me, people who laugh at the same jokes, understand, you know, like they're like just being authentic, being able to be themselves without worrying about whether or not someone else in the environment is like them, just owning who they are, all those kind of things. I freaking love it. And so, yeah, that's another thing. I learned that I do a lot more planning than I do doing, and that has to change this year. I want to plan less, not meaning that I'm going to do a bunch of stuff that isn't planned, but I'm saying I want to stop having a long list of things that I want to do and only doing like 2 of the things on the list. I would rather do a bunch of stuff and have 2 things on a list. Okay, that's contradicts what I just said, but you get what I'm saying. I do too much jotting down of plans and not executing on the plan. So I want to do a lot more executing this year. The next thing is I want to learn to I learned to lean into my voice this year. And by leaning into my voice, I mean owning with full vigor who I am, what I am, and how I think, basically. And it may seem like I've always been a very outspoken person, but I've done it with trepidation, and I don't want to do that. And I think that 2025 really taught me how to just lean into my voice. I learned to appreciate my triggers because they are indicators to things that I need to heal. They are indicators to things that need my attention. And previously, I would avoid certain conversations. I would avoid certain situations, certain environments. And in 2025, I would say that I've done a lot of confronting of different things that were wounds. And I do believe that I've healed a lot of those wounds, or a lot of those wounds have healed. I won't say I healed them. With the Lord's help, I have been able to find ways in which I am healed. Like, just, you know, a lot of times the things that we ignore are the things that stay open wounds. And just like when you're sick, if you don't ever take medicine or ever do anything to make it better, it doesn't typically stay the same. It gets worse. And that's what I found with my triggers, that whatever it is that I'm avoiding, that I'm not addressing, usually it gets a lot worse. So I embraced confronting my triggers in 2025 in a way that I haven't ever before in my life. And last but not least is I learned that there is nothing like being humbled by an adult child. Y'all think that children, when they're young, play you? Adult children, and I think the difference between young children is their innocence. When they tell you whatever the thing is that they're telling you, but something about adult children telling you about all the mistakes you made when they were children, or, you know, in their childhood when they were growing up, all that kind of stuff. It's a whole different type of humbling. It requires a different type of, I don't even know. It's just a different experience, and it is very humbling. And like I said, 2025 taught me that there is nothing like being humbled by an adult child. That's going to be it for this video. If there was anything that resonated with you, make sure you leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you like videos like this. And what is the other thing I didn't say? Give the video a thumbs up. Share it with someone if you think that they'll enjoy it. That's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum and goodbye.